As we march into March, everyone should be starting to get their first tournaments in, and opinions begin to solidify ahead of the summer and Adepticon first big update. Hi guys, it's Ryan, and I've managed to actually get a tournament in, and a couple of games generally, and now definitely I've got my own thoughts and opinions on N5. So let's talk about the event, military orders as a faction, and N5 overall in this video. Update from last video as well, I have gotten my league started and hopefully will go well, so thank you to everyone who reached out to me. I learned a lot from the messages. Anyway, if you like this video and maybe want to hear more, remember to like and subscribe for more. I know everyone says it, but it really helps out. Now let's talk about my first event, Event 5. The event I played at was the Infinity Espionage in Falkirk on the 22nd of February. In this event I placed 4th with military orders with 2 major wins and a draw, losing out 3rd because of OP. First place was Combined Army, 2nd Steel Phalanx, and 3rd Shavasti. All are known to be good players, with 1st and 3rd personally have handed me my backside in games before. I played against a duo heavy Starmada round 1, RTF Jan Core round 2, and a hacker heavy Kurzau led Tunguska in round 3. It was 3 really good games, with we winning round 1 and 3 and drawing round 2. Lots of back and forth with players and the tournament organisers to confirm some N5 rules and confirm scoring as the rounds came down to the wire. I'll put both my lists on screen in a bit, but overall it was a huge success for the venue and the tournament organiser, who said basically they wanted 4 and they got 15, maybe 16 people, which is great. It was also a good success for me personally, since 1, I had fun, 2, had good chats, and 3, I won 2 games. Seriously, it was a great event. Thanks Mark and Craig, I'm looking forward to hearing about the event in June. So how was military orders in a tournament in N5? Well, it's good. Better than N4? I think so. I have to accept I'm not the best player, so maybe military orders won't compete with vanilla Combined Army, KFC, and whatever else is the top of the tier list, but for things like local metas and events with reasonable player skill, I don't think you'll be let down. All of our knights are cheaper, which means we can take more or more chunky ones with some of our existing tools to remove hacking. We're doing not bad. I can take cooler tools now in more of abundance, not that I did in this tournament. I went for some classic lists to get myself eyed in on the differences between N4 and 5, and it gave me good insight on the differences. So list-wise, long-time listeners to the channel will be familiar with these lists. List 1 for supplies and acquisition was almost my patented Knight Hospitaller Harris with a Santiago and Montesa in Group 2. Oh, and there's a Teutonic Knight. It's a list that in an odd position, since the main door kicker was the HMG, but it's only a duo, but it's a duo with a really durable hacker who in game nearly soloed a hacking network before being isolated. Then the Order Sergeant Hacker, who, being pure as a Crozier, is just fantastic, isolated and helped bring down a killer hacker, Beta Trooper. I had a lot of cool moments with this list where the Knight Hospitaller HMG would set up taunting stuff as others moved around it. Even when frenzied, the BS-14 Burst 4.5 would be enough to demand respect. The Harris forced the tie in Game 2 and dug in enough to get the win in Round 1. Overall, all these feel really good. The Pathfinder and Montesa are fast and efficient enough to win games or set me up to win games as sideline flankers, with both offering some nasty positioning wins, allowing me to either trade well or cause just enough issues to give my opponent some pause. Montesa, I missed the dismounting, but not really. Limited cover though, I really like that change generally. I think that was a good mechanical change, and I'm really kind of glad to see it in the game. I'll touch on list 2 now. The Serf did really well. It's a mobile main battle tag and it shreds things on contact. I feared hackers for good reasons, but it was a good hammer. The Knight of Santiago combat jump was good as well. Super jump feels very mobile and solid. Glad to have it. Basically, military orders is military orders, but different, but positive. That positive is not what others seem to have been expecting, though, as in the Panoshanian Discord, many had heard the doom and gloom and were actually surprised to hear that it went well for me and I was speaking positively of it. I think what I'm really getting that is that in N5, military orders is hugely impacted by some base game changes, but at the end of the day, it's still military orders, and I can still play the army I did. The old TTTD is dead, but some Frankenstein of Trins, Surf, Dart, and some HI is probably the new better. I'm not exactly sure where it will land, but military orders I'm happy with, and happy to try more stuff. With that, you can expect the military orders N5 guides due in the coming months. Probably maybe even the next video, maybe the one after that. So what about N5 overall? If you haven't noticed my more positive tone, basically that's what I think of N5. I've followed some of the discussion, watched the Rob Shep videos, and I've heard what my community has been saying, and overall it seems to be N5 is N4, but a bit more refined, but also we really need a couple of FAQs and faction updates. And I largely agree with that. I think one caveat I'm sitting on with N5 I want to discuss first and get out the road is that we, the community, still want more communication, and if Corvus Belli gives us that and some needed updates outside the usual cycles, then I think it's quids in. But we are nearly 3 months into the new edition, and Adepticon is in about a month, and we've yet to see what the plan is. We have just seen the ISS stuff, which is looking banging, but Morats, Bakunin, Steel Phalanx, etc. all did, but N4 still had its issues. So to summarise my biggest gripe and want is more of out-of-season updates, basically. To continue the gripes, and I promise it's not all gripes, I think Speedball and the ITS TAC operations nonsense also needs some looking at. TAC operations were brought up at the tournament and only mentioned to say that we're not doing that, or essentially forgot to do it. Speedball, I think, is nearly there, more than reinforcements was, and not as much as an issue on arrival, but it needs rework. I think the move to give it no weapons or equipment was the correct choice, if surprising. Although I would maybe swap Overkill to rolling on the Panoply chart, but only for S2 models. However, many more competitive players noting that it's a great way to start a snowball rather than to recover from one. A common suggestion I hear is to make it from turn 2 onwards, and I think I largely agree with that. Or even if the player going first doesn't get it, but the player going second does. I spent 3 command tokens on it at Espionage, and I used it 0 times. Nearly used it a bunch, but the time and pressure in games meant I just didn't. It's a very, very, very near miss for Speedball, but I like it. However, if you're a tourney player, it starts to come apart at the seams slightly. Again, fine, but just like an FAQ patch might be needed. One thing for N5 is that fast is faster. Simply in N4, the fastest a model could go in a long scale was about 14 inches, and that was rare on bikes. Tags and bots were about 10-inch move, and most infantry would long scale about 8 inches. Speed and guns were rare. Montesas were a big terror, but limited by their guns. The biker twins were an issue due to their CC, not their firearms. Mobility on the big guns like the Zeta and Teak were monsters on the offense, and in N5 it's kind of been jacked up a bit. The aerials are quick and probably would have been fine if they just had multi-rifles and maybe direct templates, because they're brittle, but they're rocking Spitfires, heavy rocket launchers and things that move 16-inch a turn or fly literally up in the air with an S7, and lob templates with a heavy rocket launcher like the GoPod or the Red Eyes grenade launcher. Not only that, they are min-6 and BS3, so fast and hard to hit. That's a classic combo. I will also mention the Surf here because it's fast but bulky and it's really good, and the same kind of issue. It really pushes the game more towards rocket tag, which I don't think we're quite there yet, but the aggression and being the active player in still key in Infinity, and it does edge us closer to that rocket tag. I think turrets have slightly reined this in, but without more turn 0 kit, I don't think we're there on the defensive brick wall play, which I think is worse than all attack, but both are in dire need of being a bit more balanced with each other. I think opinions will further as the meta gets maturer. I don't know if we're past the early stage aggression is key meta, but given that was N4, I think it might stick until everyone turret spams or unlocks some secret tech. Fire teams also contribute to defense, but that's gone or reduced, so it adds to the aggression and speed stuff. Overall, yeah, N5 is faster, but I also think that's something you need to take advantage of. If your opponent isn't running these fast units, they're not going to get the drop on you, and it slows the game entirely. Give this point like 6 months to a year to see where it goes. I think the game will stay faster, but I still think it's list dependent. So what about the more like directly positive bits, the N4 but more refined? When playing it, N5 felt like everything I know with tweaks, but just the same. Like, sure, I'm calling combi rifles damage 7 or still damage 13, but rolling under for everything feels really good. I catch myself with arm, but not as much as I thought. I see the 19s and 20 and go, fuck, that's not good. The CC changes feel good as well. I know mathematically it's the same, but the vibes are different. Like, I can roll high and win, or I can roll low and also win, or draw it worse. But if I roll mid, that's a problem. Same with Guided Missile Strike. I've yet to play it, but it feels better. That really is what N5 to me is. It feels better. Lots to do, but ultimately better. I understand why people might not be happy with N5 since it's not drastically addressed the issues with N4, and for some, that might be too much. Profiles and armies and metas have changed, but the underlying infrastructure of N4 to N5 in terms of game support and meta antics is still very similar for now. But as a game I want to play, it's still very much that. It's the fantasy I want from my models and the actions they carry out. So for me, I will still be enjoying Infinity for the months and years to come. So that was my video covering my first N5 tournament, the thoughts on military orders in N5, and finally the thoughts on N5 in general. I hope you got something from it and it helped formulate the thoughts on the edition and enjoyed the video. If you did, do all that YouTube stuff down below. It really helps me out, and hopefully I will see you next time. And as always, thank you so much for watching.